Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel for some more DC Dual Force action. Hope y'all are doing well. You might be able to tell with my voice that I am getting a little sick. The fall, and working with a lot of people in person will get you eventually. And I wanted to put out a video every couple of days. It's been a little tougher, but today I'm bringing something I think people will have fun with. I will say I think this deck is definitely missing some cards, and I'm working on atomizing those right now. But I've been pretty happy with the general sort of structure of the deck. And so I think even if you don't have like the quote ideal deck, and I'll talk about the deck list a bit more in detail for that, I still think it functions pretty well. And it's really, I think the deck is an interesting deck for the meta. But as always, thank you so much for likes, subscribes, and all that. Trying to put up that world's finest, deck content for y'all. And I hope you've been getting something out of it. So, before I get carried away, why don't we hop on over to the deck list here. So, called it Firing My Laser, which was like, geez, makes me feel old. It's an old meme for those of you who know. And it's a combination I've been interested in trying. I've always felt like Cyborg is just very underpowered. But I think with the addition of Flashpoint and just kind of where the meta's been shifting, which I would say is more control focused from what I've personally been seeing in World's Finest, I like Cyborg. I think it's a leader that threatens strategies that are trying to go late. And it's really hard to deal with. Now, into Might, it can be tough, right? They can put shields on their leaders. They can, play a Superman where you can't damage their leaders. Those are tough matchups, but I see less and less of those on the ladder. And I think aggro is also a tough matchup, and you'll see that we work on this deck and really tune it to sort of hedge and sort of try and shore up the aggro matchup, because for the most part, if they are unable to pressure you to where your Cyborg is doing like anywhere from 7 to 13 damage, somewhere in that area, which is not super hard to do, once you've got at least like maybe 1 or 2 activations of Shazam under your belt, it's hard to deal with. I just played a couple games, went up against Ivy and Zatanna. And, if they actually got the thing that puts aura on both of their characters, but it's also easy to peel off when you have lightning bolts, and you've also got lightning arc to spread that damage if they have a back row recruit. So there's a lot of play to the deck, and it definitely struggles against aggro, and that's kind of why, as you'll see, that we changed that around. We definitely made specific choices. So, we're playing Shazam and Cyborg together because a lot of energy cards are extremely strong. They've got some extremely strong early game recruits that can really struggle, or rather, control decks can really struggle into, especially when they have aura. And you can just really draw a lot of cards rather quickly, or in these kind of bursts where it's hard for your opponent to really account for how much damage your Cyborg can potentially do. Sort of out of nowhere. So let's start at the top. Skeets. This card is a powerhouse. Although it's really easy to kill, being able to go, and I played against it, and that's why I included it in the first place, because I had kind of overlooked it. When you're able to go Skeets in the middle back row and then put like an aura creature in front of it, it's probably not going to die when you open with turn 1. And if this card draws you 1 card, it's great, because you're trying to go late anyway. You want to find those gold recruits and just gold cards that are going to make a huge difference. You're drawing a card, so it's upping Cyborg's count. You're thinning your deck as well, right, if you're trying to find lightning bolts. So the card is a lot better than it may first appear, and I encourage you to craft this card if you haven't for this kind of strategy. Arkham Guard is just a nod to all the aggressive decks, and specifically the Doomsday Flash deck. Having a guard card on top of a blocker for your leader that you're trying to protect, and having, potentially giving evasion to your leaders really shores up that matchup. An Arkham card has definitely won me quite a few games. Silas I had seen in other builds, and other control builds, and it's worth considering in a meta like this. There's just a lot of burn. There's a lot of damage, as you probably saw from my Joker video. Healing 5 is nothing to sneeze at. That essentially has negated, an energy blast, a lightning arc, and you get a 1/3 body. And so Silas healing up his son, I believe, his Cyborg, honestly comes in handy quite often. Pedro kind of said it in the last couple, or in at least the last video, just an excellent early game blocker that honestly I find with this deck can get 5 damage rather quickly, and just helps you try and burn down your opponent to set up your Cyborg or your Shazam. So I'm testing the Paco package, and specifically Skeets can also draw Paco, so there's kind of this interesting synergy to it can grab you a bronze recruit that you might want, and Paco also triggers the Blue Beetle, which is a silver card, and we'll go over that. And we're also running booster gold, and so there's just there's a lot of synergy in the gold cards, and I just felt like Paco made a lot of sense, also with Brenda, and just trying to thin your deck and get those draws. So 10% of the deck, or rather 10 cards in the deck, which would be 25% of the deck, are gold cards. But Paco's not actually a gold card, so it really doesn't backfire the way you might think. Eugene, nothing to say too much about this card, just good. Puts 3 bolts in your deck, 2/3 aura blocker, protects your Skeets early. Energy Blast just continues to be a very efficient removal spell that you can also point at their face, and I'm just always happy with it. Flashpoint, although weaker in this deck in the sense that it's best paired with Savage Minds with Ivy, it still ups your Cyborg count, maybe finds you what you need, finds your Lightning Bolts. So it's still a very efficient card. Even if you do it on 1 or 2 in the late game, it's still going to give you value for the most part. So I've been very happy with that. And then we're running Detective Chimp, which is just great evasive blocker that draws you a card. Again, synergistic with both Lightning Bolts in your deck and Cyborg as your leader. Brenda, I've just seen a lot in these kind of like gold heavy builds, and it can make a huge difference. And when you draw, it thins your deck potentially, and as you can kind of see, like, we want to thin our deck, we want to draw cards, we want to get to those Lightning Bolts, and she allows you to do that. Utility Belt, kind of a no-brainer with all the aggro decks going around, so I've got a cough drop in my mouth. You're able to get that Batarang if you need it, get that Bandage if you need it, which are probably the 2 things that you're picking almost the whole time. It draws you a card as well, right? So again, just really synergizes with Cyborg and Shazam. Firestorm, honestly, is a card that just continues to impress me, and can be quite annoying in the fact that it can clear a blocker and do some burn damage on certain turns, especially with Lightning Bolts in your deck. The card can really go off. Now, Freddie Freeman is basically in for when I get the Shazam Silver Recruit, because I think it's strictly better. I think I would rather have a 4/5 aura that draws me a card at the start of every turn, rather than a 5/5 aura that, yes, can copy like actions, which could be Lightning Bolts and some other things. But I find that, although I have copied a Hellblaze before and cast 3 Hellblazes in a game, I don't think it's beneficial enough. I think you'd rather just have the raw card advantage from the Shazam Recruit. Green Arrow, we opened today, finally. And obviously just a really important card for shoring up that aggro matchup. Lightning Arc continues to impress me. Very hard to play around. Gets rid of many recruits. Robin and Blue Beetle is our charge up package. Obviously Robin has to be answered. Most of the time, he's going to die. But what's great about Blue Beetle, and I'll probably switch the numbers at some point, is that you're not able to interact with the charge, right? You just go on your gold silver turn, you go Blue Beetle, gold card, right? And charging up both of your leaders, which take quite a while to charge up, is a huge game. So I probably will switch around these numbers. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about what I would say the ideal build is. Bat Cycle, I go back and forth if I want one or two, but generally I've been happy with this card. Evade is a really, really important stat line right now into some of the better aggressive strategies. Earthquake is kind of a necessity. You just need, if I was playing Zatanna Cyborg, I might not have to play this card because you've got access to Nurgle that can deal 3 damage to the whole board. You've got access to Pyromancy, things like that. But you need something early game that can stop those huge snowball aggressive starts. Cyborg I've just generally been impressed with at the gold end. He's a huge blocker, right? It's just like hard to clear 9 health. And it's not hard to deal 1 to 2 to 3 damage when you play this card, and sometimes that can be the difference between you connecting for more damage in the future. But I think he's just a good blocker that has upside. That's kind of what I felt about him. Flash, kind of no-brainer. You're running lightning bolts in your deck. You probably want Flash. Now, I will say, in the Ivy Shazam version, when you're able to just fetch this with Friends at High Places, and it's a 6/6, it's doing a lot of work for you. It does a little less work in this deck, but I still think it deserves a slot for the most part. 2 Hellblaze, just always probably play this card if you're playing Energy these days. 2 Mr. Terrific. Now, I saw this by another player. I want to say it was Yara, who really loves drawing cards and has probably played this combination quite a lot. Mr. Terrific is just exactly what his name says. You get a 7/7. It's a little awkward if you draw like a Skeets off of this card because that's the only free card you're running in your deck besides Lightning Bolt. But even then, it's not that bad. But overall, getting a 7/7 that guaranteed draws you a Bolt can be a huge difference, and that's why I'm running 2 of it. And now Booster Gold is kind of where this whole like gold-centric kind of build comes from. And I think some of the best top end that a control deck can have is you get to go, on your first gold turn, if you go Booster Gold plus another gold plus a silver, it is just really hard to deal with that, right? Even though you have to deal with Hellblaze and some other cards like that, being able to go like Booster Gold in the middle slot, play a Mr. Terrific to guard my Shazam, play another silver recruit. You're getting to play a lot of cards in one turn. Now, for the ideal build, if you've got a full collection, my guess is you probably just run 2 Booster Gold, 2 Hellblaze, I think 2 Mr. Terrific. So you might play around with like the gold numbers either on Cyborg or maybe Flash. But I think doing that sort of gold heavy build is sort of where you want to be. And then Jaime, the recruit that actually turns into the full Blue Beetle, I think it's probably supposed to be in here. You probably want another Blue Beetle. I think and I think you probably want Shazam recruit in here over Freddy, and maybe over one or two other cards. Yeah, but I think we're pretty close here, and it's honestly been pretty good so far. So why don't we fire up maybe 1 or 2 games, because they are going to be long, especially for against Control. But I think it's a deck I wanted to feature on the channel because I haven't featured either of these leaders, and I actually think it's a pretty fun deck to play. It's a very punishing when you make mistakes, but other than that, it's doable. All right. Okay, well, here's our Control matchup. So let's see what we can do. I like all this. Not opposed to keeping Bat Cycle, so probably will. Alright, threw back our Hellblaze, got it right back. Alright, I don't really want to toss out Silas immediately, so let's see if we can hit on Brenda. And I'll put her in front of Cyborg here. Okay, sure too. What's up? I love the finger guns flash. That's probably my favorite. Pedro, great opener. We got Cyborg on 4 charges already. Alright, well, we don't have a great way to address good old Pedro here. We're not under a ton of pressure. We can get value off of Silas, so I am just going to wait here. Throwing him out just doesn't really do anything. We're not able to pressure a recruit. We're not getting the value. Next turn we can go Silas into Bat Cycle, or actually probably Robin into Silas. Okay, another Pedro is scary. They have a big turn with Shazam. It could be quite tough for us. Okay, nice. I was really hoping I would draw a more relevant bronze recruit here. Alright, so pretty easy for Robin to die here, right? Because they just attack it once, does nothing, and then they can punch it. However, we also don't want to really take 6 to the face. This deck can really burn you down. But the question is, how important is that? So I can also Bat Cycle. I think I'm going to Bat Cycle here. Oh, let's play Eugene first. That way we can potentially hit bolts here. And I think we have to go for the Ivy recruit. These things are scary, but Ivy plus Flashpoint is just really, really rough. And this way we have at least a little bit of protection. I guess we should have done that the other way around. Activate, get the 6 bolts in, then play Eugene. But no, we have to draw the card first anyway. Okay, so he's just punching there. Ooh, alright. Power of Hope. This is going to be some damage on our leaders here. Yep. They're rushing down Cyborg. That makes sense. It definitely kind of poses the biggest threat across the rest of the game. Ooh, Lightning Bolt. Okay. Well, now we get to get some value out of our Silas, which is nice. So how do we want to do this? Probably going to Hellblaze next turn. We can save the Bolt to peel off one of those. So I think the way we do this is just put Silas here, heal for 5, play Robin. Because now we're in a turn cycle where Shazam's not going to go off for quite a while. We're just going to hold here. But we're already at gold turn, and we're still very healthy, so that's a good sign. Now, if they Flashpoint this turn, this is going to get pretty scary. Savage Vine activation kind of makes me think they're going to do it immediately. Okay, Freddy in the back. And then the Power of Hope again. Alright, well, they're really going for the Lightning here, which is pretty scary. Just have to hope RNG is on our side. But they've created quite a few Lightning Bolts, so we'll see. Now, if we draw a Booster Gold, that would be incredible. But can't hope for too much. Alright, let's see what we can do this turn. So, if we go Cyborg, Bat Cycle, that's going to peel off a lot of this, and we're also going to get to attack with Robin, and we probably just need to trade it into Freddy. Unless we can clear Freddy, but I don't think there's a really great way to do that. So I think let's start here with Cyborg. And let's... Bat Cycling here is good, but obviously I just want to get the activation here. Okay, so there's the 1. Now, we can go Bolt here. There's another Lightning Bolt. So I can punch here and keep... Nice. Okay, well, I do think we're in a good position from there. It's unfortunate we don't get to play it out because I feel like this game is definitely not over, but fair enough. I think we set those turns up fairly well. You do want to make sure you're sequencing like your lightning bolts and drawing spells and stuff like that. I think the problem though is with that kind of deck, if Robin sits there or if like Blue Beetle gets to go off and we're already in late game, it's going to be pretty hard to close out against us. And the fact that they didn't get Flashpoint, I think, was obviously pretty in our favor. Oh, interesting. Okay, Batman, Batgirl. I have not really ever played this matchup, so this should be something. All right, well, I think I'm happy. There is an argument to keeping Booster Gold here. Because if we hit off Brenda, I'm going to keep this hand. We've got Earthquake to shore up the early game. We've got Brenda to draw gold cards, and then we've got Booster Gold on our gold turn to kind of go off. And if we really need help, we can Flashpoint. So I feel like this is fine. Okay. Well, Arkham Guard's actually nice. So yeah, let's start with Arkham Guard. I don't get the buff, but it's a guard card. It'll, you know, keep us healthy generally. Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see. Full Tactics is definitely a vibe. I've liked Batman Cyborg too. I feel like that's one of the more kind of sleeper combinations. You know, obviously not having access to another card pool kind of warps what your deck is able to do. But if it does what it does well, and Batman definitely helps draw cards and stuff like that, generate a lot of card advantage. His strength is just the fact that he can fight for the board early so easily and gives you card advantage. And just the fact that all the gadgets tend to be like very relevant. In particular, Batarang and Bandage, but... Oh, where were you? Alright. So I don't think we're Flashpointing here, but we also don't need to commit to the board super hard because we probably will Earthquake next turn. But I think it's fine to play out Brenda. She doesn't really... Not really a card that we care about anyway. Oh. Oh my goodness. Wow. See that? That is the power of kind of running this package. Now... Since we are almost guaranteed going to Earthquake next turn, I don't think we play anything here. We'll take some damage for sure, but I think we just get a ton out of Earthquaking. So, we're also going to Flashpoint for like 1,000,000, which honestly might be enough with Cyborg. So he's going to go up to 6 next turn, and then it'll be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 damage if we just flash, or 14 damage if we Flashpoint next turn. So we may be able to get them with a Flashpoint out of nowhere, but we probably have to fight for the board first. And also we've got a really good setup going into late game. So we'll be able to play Paco as blockers. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I really want another Blue Beetle in this deck. I think with the package we're running, maybe we'll cut an Arkham Guard. Yep. Yep. Well, they've got 1,000,000 gadgets in their hands, so that's pretty scary. But we can clear up some of the board. Well, actually the whole board because of Shazam activation, so it's not much they can do to prevent that on Batwing. Shazam will be getting low. Okay, smart. Just trying to pump up Batwing as much as possible. But thankfully, we could still clear it. Okay. which I think we have to. I don't think we can leave that on the board. So let's go here. Shazam is going to get rather low here. Earthquake. And then I'm actually going to put Eugene in first. And I could put Skeets out as an actual blocker, which they may want to clear next turn. Or just save it for Flashpoint as an extra card to fetch. I think that's probably a little bit better. So we'll see if they have a really good turn this turn. Like Gordon would be pretty rough with Batgirl activation. We might be a little bit too far behind, but we'll see. Can also Flashpoint if we need to dig next turn. Bat Cyclone Batman is pretty good. Can get their double activation here. Okay, that's fine. What I did not want to see was a Gordon into double cop car this turn. That would have been pretty devastatingly bad for how low Shazam is. This I can live with. And it may even be proper for us to Flashpoint next turn and kill Batman, for instance. If we have the damage. We may not, if we got multiple bandages. Could potentially kill Batgirl, though. And they're holding her activation, so that's smart. Even though she's not taking a ton of damage, like, definitely just throw out your bandages. Okay. So the question is, so we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it'd be 14 damage if, well, it's not enough to kill someone, so I don't think we can afford to do that. So why don't we start with Detective Chimp, which is going to be annoying for them to clear. I've already seen a Batwing, so I'm guessing they're playing the other one. Okay, Utility Belt's interesting. So we could just run out Skeets as a blocker here in Utility. So we would just get Bandage, probably. Or would I rather play out a body? But I can do both. Yeah. I think this maybe gives us the best chance of not dying here. Okay, Lightning Bolt's actually nice. So maybe we just clear Lucius. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Let's see what we draw. Another Lightning Bolt. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm fine to do this. And then let's heal for sure. And then I think I'll just hold my Lightning Bolt for next turn. There's no reason to really use it here. So we pretty much have a guaranteed kill with Cyborg next turn. We can probably just go Booster Gold into Mr. Terrific, use whatever bolts we have, and then Flashpoint, and then activate, and that should be plenty. So as long as maybe Shazam doesn't die this turn, I think we should be okay. What's the worst thing they can play? I mean, Cyborg would be decent. Batman Recruit would be pretty rough because we don't have a way to interact with it. Trying to think what other tactics cards are. I mean, they could also go for Batmobile. That would be pretty good. That probably would allow them to kill Shazam because they've played like a million gadgets. So we can see. It's good they're thinking. Glad they're not just like slamming some good stuff. Okay, there's the Cyborg. I don't love it, but It's definitely not the end of the world here. Okay, so they're going to go question, draw a card, deal 1, activate Batgirl, and then probably play a gadget or something. But that's fine. That doesn't kill us. Probably clears our board, but yeah. Tear gas. Assuming they probably have at least one more gadget. If they don't, that's good. They'll probably just go for 3 on Cyborg. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely live with that. This is still alive. I love that. Okay. So yeah, we can guaranteed get a kill, and we definitely want it to be on Batman. So let's start with Mr. Gold in the middle. And then let's go Mr. Terrific as a blocker here. Okay, draw our lightning bolts. And then let's go, how many cards? It's 12. So we bolts here. We drew Freddy. Interesting. 13. So we go 13. So this will go up to 14. Yeah, so let's bolt again. Another Mr. Terrific. We've got 14. So we'll take you out. And then the question is, do we flashpoint here? We definitely don't have to. But obviously we get an incredible, I mean, we get a guaranteed kill for sure. And that's probably good enough for me. It's a turn where we've done enough that we can get away with spending an action flashpointing. This is all good. Sure. Let's take him out. Draw a card. And that's the end of our turn. Okay. So yeah, now Cyborg's at 21. So the game becomes, if we can keep Cyborg alive, it's just a guaranteed kill. So let's see what they got here. If they have Bat Cycle into a good deploy trigger, that would be pretty rough. But we've got some ways of putting out a solid defense next turn. We've also got Shazam activation next turn. I feel like we're in a pretty dang good spot. We got to kill Batman before he was activated again, which is ideal when you get to kill it on the off turn or like when it's about to pop, because sometimes those players are going to sink resources into making sure that it lives. So but, you know, with Cyborg and double, you know, gadgets and all that sort of stuff, it's pretty easy to clear this board. So, obviously, Detective Chimp is definitely going to die. Wouldn't be surprised if even Booster Gold potentially dies here. So if they, I mean, their best play is if they can kill Shazam, that's pretty huge development for them. But we could skip a turn with Bat Cycle, and that might be enough. Yep. That's pretty good. Oof, and Green Arrow. Very good. Not quite enough, which is very, very helpful. Okay. Question becomes, what are we doing? I think we definitely want to take out Green Arrow, so that's probably what we're going to do. We go Cyborg into maybe Bat Cycle. Or Robin. Let me just do double trade there. Oh, right, we can play another gold. Jeez, I forgot about that. So maybe we do Bat Cycle then. So let's activate. Put more lightning bolts in our deck. Let's Bat Cycle. Try and protect him. And we drew another tactics card. Oh well, we could play Robin instead anyway. Yeah, first time we play gold, generated the gold. Yeah. Jeez, so good. So good. And we'll just go face here. Barring any catastrophe, we should have this game. Yeah. Yeah, Booster Gold is just allows this deck to really lock up the late game, I think. I mean, being able to play 3 spells. Oh. Yeah. So this deck definitely should be running 2. It just has so much power in a late game deck. The foil Batman is pretty dang sick. I love the clock tower in the background. It's like my favorite detail about it. Nice. All right. Very good. Okay. Well, we got absolutely slammed by Might Tactics before the video, but not a bad showing for our deck here. So yeah, closing thoughts. Go to the actual deck list while we chat for a sec. So it's a really fun deck. It's really, I find, one of the harder decks to pilot. I feel like there's a lot that you kind of need to keep track of because you're pretty vulnerable, especially if you fall behind to stuff like anything that potentially exhausts your Shazam from clearing the board and stuff like that can be really tough. But I think this sort of like gold synergistic Blue Beetle package is probably where this deck has to be. So it should probably be 2 booster golds. I still really love Mr. Terrific. I think he deserves a slot. Cyborg obviously helps too, as a blocker and as a way to just, you know, do some damage on the board. I think probably 2 Blue Beetle. If you have Jaime, you should probably find a slot for him. So if I was going to cut stuff, I think what I would do is probably cut one of the Arkham guards, and like maybe potentially one of the Silas's. I do think guard goes a long way in some matchups, but if we're shifting more towards a control heavy meta, which I really feel like we are, then I think you probably just cut both Arkham guards. And Silas does enough of an impression where like he's a blocker and he gains you 5 life. Sometimes you have awkward play patterns with him, but overall I think you can probably get away with that. In terms of cutting energy cards, like I said, I think this should probably be Shazam Recruit, Freddie Freeman. And Flash is like, I could leave or take, sort of, in this build. So I think those are some of the cards I would consider. So I guess if you were trading gold for gold, you take out Flash, you put in Booster Gold. You take out 2 of the Arkham guards, and you put in another Blue Beetle at silver and Jaime. And probably just run that, and then take out Freddie Freeman for Shazam Recruit, and then that's what I would think is maybe the sort of build that I'm going for. So hope that was helpful. Hope it's fun. It is a really fun deck. You can tell I have to think a lot when you're doing it because there's a lot of sequencing stuff and trying to min-max your lightning bolt sort of draw ability and like making sure you're shifting to maybe protecting Cyborg versus Shazam at certain points, and then, you know, popping them with a Bat Cycle or Blue Beetle can really catch your opponent off guard. And I think if you're seeing a lot of control, I really think they don't have a ton of great answers to this deck. So I'd give it a shot. I think it's got a lot more punch to its laser and its lightning bolts than it might seem. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time.